Hello everybody, I am Bradley and I have a Brad taste in music. Quick reminder that if you are not following me yet on Twitter, my Twitter is @BradTaste. I post lots of interesting stuff and I would recommend you check it out. Link will be in the description. First of all, who is T-Pain? T-Pain is one of the founders of autotune, who initialized the sound in the late 2000s with
many club hits such as Buy You a Drink and Bartender.
But what's interesting about T-Pain, as in comparison with many other of his contemporaries, is he doesn't use autotune as a crutch. Rather, he uses it as a sort of spice. I guess you can compare him to Travis Scott in modern day, where Travis uses it as a sort of way of sprucing up his music. T-Pain does the same with using it as a way to sound original. T-Pain definitely nails this in a lot of his music. Unfortunately, there were a lot of things with his club hits, like Buy You a Drink, where it was like, we in the bed like, ooh, ooh, you know, things like that were very distracting. So I was never like a massive fan of T-Pain, but I will say, fast forward to 2017, I checked out his album Oblivion, which is over an hour long, 16 tracks, and has a good handful of features on it. So what do I think of it? I think it's pretty good. Let's talk about the good on this album. For one, it's insanely consistent. There are very few parts on here that felt like they were dragging the album down or slowing it down. It was extremely smooth all the way through, even with the one track on it with Mr. Talkbox, which was 8 minutes long, the song May I. And you know, that song, I didn't think it needed to be 8 minutes, but it was alright. And then later on, the song That Comeback, which was definitely a huge low point, especially with the line which kind of just stood out like a sore thumb. It was distracting and really took away from the song. Plus, the song itself was not that good. But enough of that. Let's talk about the good, because there's a lot of good. First of all, the features on here. T-Pain has a ton of chemistry with all of them. And I think that they all really add something to the songs. They're not just sort of there slapped in just randomly. I think that they all have their unique sounds that they bring to the table, and they really mix well with T-Pain's original sound, which is another thing that's really good on here. T-Pain brings something very original to this album. His auto-tune sound really makes him stick out from his contemporaries because it gives him sort of an identity, just sort of a way for him to stand out. It works extraordinarily well. He uses the sound in a way that a lot of other people don't, and combine that sound with his southern rapping style is something that is very attention-grabbing and ear appealing. He has a really good flow. He changes up his flow a lot throughout this album, and it keeps it interesting, and his flows are really consistent. And for the most part, he does a good job, even with his sort of sound, of keeping it to the modern 2017 style. The only song on here that was extraordinarily outdated was the song CC from DC featuring Wale, which definitely sounded like it was something that should have been left in 2008. The song Who Died, which starts off the album, starts off with this great vocal delivery from T-Pain, and it's this really epic kind of dun 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 starter to the album. Wonderful track. And also the ending to this album was extremely good. Second Chance, which was a very solid cut with a beautiful melodic ending to the entire album. The subject matter on this album certainly is not something that is important. A lot of these songs are very vulgar with what they are saying, especially the song Pussy on the Phone. Oh my god, this song is one of those situations where it's so bad that it just goes full circle. I mean, it's like, the beat's great, the lyrics are so stupid. I think the dumbest part about it's the fact that no one really talks on the phone anymore, and he's not asking her to like snap a picture, he's just saying, I'm kind of done talking to you, I want to talk to down there. So you know what? It was kind of funny. I don't know if he meant it to be, but man, I enjoyed the track. It was a pretty good track. Texting My Ex went a little long, but overall it was pretty solid. The biggest issue with this album involves the beats being extraordinarily one-dimensional, and a lot of the times it sounds like, wait a minute, have I heard this already? I think that it's compromised very well though with T-Pain, because T-Pain does a good job with switching up his flows and sounding unique with great hooks. So a lot of the times the beats actually kind of come second here. And that's a lot for me because I'm someone who usually focuses on production. So for him to distract me from the consistently repetitive sounding samples, that's very impressive. A couple of these songs, two of them specifically, sounded like they were way too dancey. Like No Rush was absolutely just a pop sort of grab that sounded like an EDM track that I didn't think fit the album that well, even though I did think that it was performed quite well. There was a white noise sort of thing going on, so you could tell that it was EDM because, you know, I did my research. May I, the 8-minute track with Mr. Talkbox, I have to say, this is another example where T-Pain shows his great chemistry with someone. Mr. Talkbox and him, they sound fantastic together. It's like a beautiful duet where they're just coming together with their two unique vocal styles and making something that sounds super fun, super ear appealing. I will say though that there is a lot of subject matter on here that is distracting, especially on the song straight early on, talking about, you know, I'm trying to get monetization here, so just read it yourself. Just no. I will say though that he brings a lot of swagger. He brings so much personality where it sounds like he's really going hard on a lot of these beats. So you know what? With the good, with the bad, all combined, I think that this is a great project. I think that T-Pain made something super solid, made something that made me want to come back at least one more time. I'm gonna give this album a couple of different categories. I usually come up with unique categories for each album that I listen to, and for this one, I'm gonna start off with T-Pain himself. For his delivery, basically everything that's on this album, I'm gonna give him an 8 out of 10. He does a spectacular job at keeping me interested throughout this thing, and very rarely do I sway away. Only problems being when the lyrics are extremely distracting. So yeah, no, T-Pain does great. For the flow of this album, which is very important when you have an album at this length, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think that the flow on this album flows insanely well. Only a few times does it feel like it's a little slow. Feels like I felt like with a couple of these songs I was listening to the same thing over and over again. Like I Told My Girl is a song where it sounds like this was the same exact sample from Poo-Tang on the Phone, especially when it sounded like, again later on there was another song that sounded like that same sample was being used, and it did get a little winded after a while. For overall tracks that I enjoyed, I am going to give it a 6.7 out of 10. I think that that's basically weighted out to the score I always put in the description, which I don't even know if people look at it. It's my track weighting. And overall, my opinion of this album, I'm feeling a 7, just a solid 7 out of 10. And that is it. I love you guys. My name is Bradley. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. If you leave a like on the video, tell me why you liked the video, and if you didn't like the video, go down and complain about why my hair looks like a dead raccoon. Again, see you. Peace.